experience, my first real powerful experience was back in 1959 when I ended up in Los Angeles. I came here with about $9 in my pocket. I had no idea what I was doing. But happily, I'm 19 years old, so I lived through it. But I've told this story before, but I was in North Hollywood. I ended up in North Hollywood living there. And I went downtown, and back then, 1959, North Hollywood was just a small little town over the hill from Hollywood. And I went into a restaurant. I lived about 3 blocks from town, and I went into a restaurant in North Hollywood Saturday morning, and the place was very crowded. But there was a seat at the counter. So I took the seat at the counter, and next to me was a young girl, about 17 years old. I'm 19. We started talking. Come to find out, she lived about 2 blocks from me, and I only lived about 3 blocks from town. And she had walked down, so had I. So we ended up hanging around town together, and then we walked home. She knew where I lived, but she went on to her home, which was a couple of blocks further. And so we began meeting downtown on weekends. And when we'd walk home, she knew where I lived, but I didn't follow her home, so I never really knew exactly where she lived. I knew it was only a couple of blocks. And one night, this is in 59, I'm 19 years old, one night she comes over, and she says, "My father wants to talk to you. He's got something to tell you." And so I thought that sounded interesting, and so I went with her. And when I was walking up to the house with her, my father, by chance, happened to be coming out of the house, and the moment I saw him, I got a reaction. I got some kind of an involuntary reaction. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. I could feel the presence of something wrong, something very, very otherworldly feeling I got. But it wasn't fearful. It wasn't frightening. It was a strange. It was just a very strange feeling I got seeing him. Mm-hmm. And he motioned for us to come in the house, and we did. And the 2 girls, my girlfriend and her sister, younger sister, they sat on the floor, and he and I sat on the opposite ends of a sofa. The mother was in the kitchen, and he's talking to me with just regular stuff, asking me if you're working and how do you like your job, and my daughter tells me she met you, et cetera, and we're talking. And so after a few minutes, I felt a little bit better, though I knew there was something strange about him, but it wasn't frightening me. I just didn't know what to think of it. But I felt a little better because he's talking about normal human things, so I felt a little bit more at ease. And once I was at ease, he then said to me, very nonchalantly, he said, "Remember back in Florida when you were 8 years old and your father built a new back porch? Wow. And the old back porch was falling apart, and your dad and his brother built a new back porch, and they made it out of green lumber because the lumber was green and it smelled funny." And he said, "Remember when your dad made that porch and built that porch?" And I looked at him, and tears, I could feel tears come into my eyes because I didn't want to show tears in front of my girlfriend, but he was frightening me, legitimately.
Because he knew something. How did he know that?
Yeah, how did he know that? And then he said, "And remember one night you were in bed and you went out in the back porch and you were picking the wood with your finger. Remember how you were picking the wood because it smelled funny because it was green lumber and it smelled funny? And remember how you picked it with your finger and put it in your mouth? You were tasting it, and and the moon was out. Remember, it was a very bright moon, and you talked to God, didn't you?" And he looked at me, and I didn't know what to say. And he said, "Well, didn't you talk to God?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And he said, "Well, what did you say?" And I didn't say anything. And he said, "I'll tell you what you said. You said to God that you wanted to do something important with your life. You wanted to do something, significant and important with your life. Is that what you said?" And I looked at him and shook my head and I said, "Yes, that's what I said." And then he said to me, he said, "Well, how would I know that? How did I know that?" And I said, "I don't know how you know that." And he said, "Well, I know that because we were there." We were there, and you just didn't see us, did you?
We? Oh, meaning her daughter, his daughter?
No, just we.
We.
I don't know who we is.
He and someone else.
We, yeah, him and somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we were there. And I said, what do you mean, we? And he said, well, you are very interested in UFOs and aliens and all kinds of strange things like that, aren't you? And I said, yes, I am. He said, yeah, I know that. And he said, we were there, we heard you. I said, we're going to give you an opportunity to do something with your life, but it won't happen till the last part of your life. Later in life, you will be able to do something. And after all, you did ask. So we brought you here to California to begin your journey. And I said, what do you mean you brought me here? He said, well, why are you here? Why did you come to California? And I said, I don't know. I just had to do it. He said, that's right. We brought you here. And he said, so you are going to do something for us. And I said, who is this us? Who are you talking about? He says, listen. He said, you've always been interested in UFOs and aliens, haven't you? And I said, yes. And he said, would you like to see some tonight, UFOs up close tonight? And I said, sure, I'd love to. He said, well, come on with me. I can do that. And so the girls got up with me and him, and we walked out. The four of us are standing in the yard. Now it's about midnight, North Hollywood, back in 59. And we're standing there looking, and he's looking into the sky, and he's talking inaudibly. I can see his mouth is moving. He's talking, but you can't hear him. While he's doing this, I'm looking at his two girls, and my girlfriend and his sister, and they're looking at me to see my reaction. And then he turns to me, and he said, they said they'll be here in just a couple of minutes. They're coming from the Griffith Park, south of here. And there'll be three of them, and they're coming, they'll be here in just a few minutes. And I said, who is they? He said, well, just wait and you'll see. And sure enough, a couple of minutes later, we're standing out there, and three beautiful disc-shaped things, about the size, almost the size of a full moon, three of them, came over our heads about midnight, San Fernando Valley, North Hollywood, and they came over in a triangle, configuration, and each one of them was absolutely gorgeous because it was like they looked like a pie cut in 6 or 8 slices, and each slice was a different color. But the thing I remember so vividly about that event was that the colors were like laser colors. They were extraordinarily greens and yellows and oranges and blues. Brilliant colors, and they were all part of the circular pattern, and they were circulating around slow, and each